Good evening, my dear colleagues. Welcome to Inget Zoom Series 44 after a short break. Today, our guest speaker is Associate Professor Dr. Müzeyyen Nazlı Güngör. Nazlı Hocam is currently working at the Department of Foreign Languages Education, Gazi University, where she's also the Social Affairs Vice Coordinator. She's the editorial board member of European Journal of Teacher Education and reviewer of some prestigious journals in teaching and teacher education. And definitely this experience is going to be reflected on her presentation this evening. The title of her talk is How to Get Published in International Journals. Thank you, Nazlı Hocam, for accepting to be our guest, and welcome again. The screen is all yours.
Thank you very much, Hocam. I'm sharing my screen. Okay, so it's nice to be here with you. Thank you for coming. And Aydan Hocam, before all, I would like to thank you very much for inviting me for this webinar. I felt so honored, actually. And my dear professors, colleagues, and students, welcome to my presentation. I hope you will find it useful. And before I start, I would like to say that I will take your questions at the end of my presentation. So I think we can get started. Okay, today we are going to talk about how to get published in international journals. I can see many expert professors here who are really expert in publishing their papers in very prestigious journals. So at the end of the session, I would like to take their implications and their ideas about how to get published in such journals from a different perspective as well. Okay. So today's agenda is about what we should do before the publication process and what kind of things we should consider for writing for publication, how we should submit, what is the value of peer review, and what happens after we are accepted. I mean, I will refer to the post-publication process. Before we start writing our paper, first, we need to tailor our article to the journal, I think. In order to do this, we should first prepare a journal shortlist. How can we do it? How can we prepare a journal shortlist? First, we should identify our audience. Why are we writing our paper? Who is our audience? We should know about this first of all, and we should have a clear aim for this, because it will affect the type of journal that we are going to submit our paper. The second step is to answer some questions, like which journals do you usually read related to your study while you are considering such a study, right? Considering writing such a study or carrying out such a study. So which journals do you usually read? That's important because your study will most probably be published in such journals, in these journals. The second question that you should always think about is what journals do you aim to cite in your paper? This can also help you better understand the type of journals your paper will be suitable for. Another option to prepare your journal shortlist can be to consult your colleagues or, let's say, significant others in your field. You may ask your colleagues, reviewers around you maybe, or your professors. I'm sure they will help you and guide you about it. I have discovered this tool, which was called a journal suggester by Taylor and Francis. You may copy and paste the abstract of your article, right? And click on Reveal Suggested Journals button. And there, the system will list the journals that your paper may have the opportunity to get published, right? So you may try this tool to ensure that your paper is suitable for those journals. After you have a roughly list of several journals in your mind, I advise you to check those journals' scope, aims, and especially the previous articles which were published in those journals. That will also help you better understand what kind of things you should pay attention to while preparing your manuscript. And of course, that's not over yet. You should also review the editorial board. Why is this important? Because the journals you have selected for your own study have, of course, several editorial boards. I mean, each journal has its own editorial board, consisting of maybe 15 or 20 editorial board members. As we all know, in each volume, editors publish their editorials. And those editorials actually are the tips which give us the clue about what kind of topics we should focus on to get published in that journal. So maybe you may skip reading that editorial part, but I strongly recommend you to read over the editorial part in the journals you aim to submit your paper. And I will also mention it in the future slides, but this is also important to better understand the editorial board members' perspectives and approaches to your topic, to your field of interest, right? Please check their previous studies. What kind of topics they focused on in their previous articles, and what kind of topics these editors usually tend to publish in that journal. That's very important. And in order to fully understand this, you should review the editorial board. Most journals prepare calls for papers at different intervals. Why not pay attention to those calls and look for what kind of questions they pose to the researchers, and maybe tailor your article accordingly, or tailor your very rough study accordingly? That can also be an option for you. After you have, let's say, focused on the list of journals for sure, okay, then you may check instructions for authors. You should consider the word count, formatting, and style guidelines. This can be one of the reasons why you are rejected at the end of the submission process. So this part is important. And unfortunately, as it happens in different fields, we also have predatory journals in our field. In order to check, in order to make sure that the journal you have selected is reliable, you can use this link, thinkchecksubmit.org. It will help you identify the trustworthiness of the journal. So after we have finished this, let's come back to writing part, writing for publication, which is, I think, a very difficult and time-consuming part, let's say. Here are some general good writing ideas. I try to, how can I say, reflect on my own experiences and ideas in this part. So I hope you will find them useful. I think it's better for me to start preparing your tables and figures before you start your manuscript, write your paper. Why? Some people have the tendency to write their abstract first and then continue the natural order. Well, that's an option. That depends on the researcher, of course. But after we prepare our data in tables and figures or charts, whatever, we will better see what kind of data we have with us. We can better relate what we are going to talk about or mention in the literature part, and how we can comment on the findings in the discussion part, etc. So it's like a mind map for us, and therefore I think it will be useful for us first to see the data in tables and figures, and then we can move on with the literature review part. This part should cover every aspect of the manuscript in terms of theory. It should have a solid theory, this part. In terms of academic writing skills, I will suggest not to summarize the literature that you have read. Please avoid laundry list style of writing here. He said that, he claimed that, she thought like that, etc., etc. So avoid such laundry style of writing. Instead, try to use analyzing, synthesizing, and paraphrasing techniques. In this way, the readers will more easily and better be involved in your literature review part. You should provide a clear and solid theoretical framework with tensions, challenges, problems, and in that field, in the field of your research area. So you may discuss what we know, that's quite normal. You may identify the gap in the literature, and then finally, you should relate your study to that gap. This is very important. This part will, let's say, give the message that, yes, there is a gap here, and I'm trying to fill in this gap through this study. You're giving this message, this impression. So discussing the previous studies and the solid theoretical framework here is very important. As for the methodology part, after the literature review part, we should make sure that we cover all the subheading. The methodology part is the place where we show our research can be replicable, can be carried out in different contexts through these steps. So we should be very clear and simple. In the findings and results part, again, we can present our findings in order of importance. This part is important, especially in quantitative studies. Why? Because some researchers may have the tendency to just repeat the data, statistical data, in words. We can see it on the table. So why are you repeating those numbers, statistical data again? Just interpret what they mean for us, for international readership, or international readers, actually. So that's important, not to repeat the information mentioned in the figures or tables. And of course, we should clearly state what we have found, and we should relate it to any figure or table if we have any in our manuscript. As for the discussion and conclusion parts, interpreting and discussing our findings from most to least important is important. We should think about what are the implications of our study. In order to discuss this part better, we may refer to previous studies that we mentioned in the literature review. And we can think about if they are consistent with our findings or not. And if they are so, why? If they are not, why not? So, because this can also be another finding for us or another implication for us. Never forget to have issues for future research in this part. I know that in some journals, discussion and conclusion are two separate parts. But here, I just wanted to approach them from the same perspective. So I added them in the same on the same slide. And finally, we should acknowledge the limitations of our study, because mentioning the limitations of our study will help readers, I think, better show our expertise in this field, because you give the message to the international reader that I know this topic, I know this research design, and under these limited conditions, I did this and that. You show it. It also shows that you're being sincere and honest. So this is very important, the limitations of the study. So now we can come back to the introduction part. After you have finished the discussion and conclusion part, you can see, not of course the whole paper, but most of the paper in your hand will be in your hand. So that means you will better see the parts of your paper, and it will facilitate your introduction writing. So you should, in this part, you should provide background information to your readers and why you focused on this topic. You should convey us to believe why you focused on this topic. Also, in this part, it is important to explain why our study is internationally important and relevant. Remember, I told you to review the editorial board? Yeah, at this part, it will help you, it will save you, because the previous studies of editorial board members will work at this part, right? And what is the international perspective in your study? In international journals, editors will always look for this, the international perspective. If your study remains too local, too country-specific, most probably you will be rejected. So providing that international perspective is very important, and trying to, let's say, explain why your study will be a good fit for this journal can be accomplished in this part. Yes, so the introduction part also is over. And what is next? The abstract. First, check the journal's word limit for the abstract. In this part, you can mention your research aim, methodology, and main findings. We should be clear and avoid any abbreviations or too much technical language here. I think the abstract is the most important part of a paper, because the editors and readers, especially when they don't have so much time, will first read your abstract and decide whether to continue or stop, right? So it should be appealing to the international, broader audience. Okay, so you also have finished writing your abstract, and when we check, the abstract, introduction, literature review, methodology, discussion, and conclusion with your references, of course. So, do you think we are ready to submit? Of course, no, not yet. So, what is missing? The review process. It may take us some time to write, to deal with the paper. I think we should give a break, maybe for a week, I don't know, maybe for a month. That depends on you. Why? Because we are too much involved in the writing process, right? We can't isolate ourselves from the paper. So in order to start self-review, I think that break is important. It will help us be maybe better objective towards our paper. In the self-review part also, we should focus on the message. We should look for the message or argument we want to convey in our paper. If we can find it, if we can understand our message clearly, then that's good. This is very important for self-review and for peer review. You may ask a colleague who is new to your field to review the paper in terms of ambiguity or clarity. Maybe unconsciously, you're using too much technical language. So that may hinder readers to understand your paper, and it may be another reason for rejection. Using this technique will help you understand if your language is complex or not. And also, proofreading in the peer review part is important. Again, we should check the APA rules for references, tables, and figures throughout the paper. I think we should not exaggerate references and citations because based on my previous experiences, sometimes reviewers find our in-text citations too many. So they warn us to reduce the number of studies, for example, we have used in our paper that can be also one of the sources for criticism. And of course, that's I think more important than everything. Please avoid plagiarism and self-plagiarism. In the peer review, your partner or your colleague may check for the plagiarism or self-plagiarism part, yeah. And after we have, let's say, finished the review process, self-review or peer review, we should also prepare a cover letter. A cover letter is very important because it is the tool, communication tool between you and the editor. You don't know the editor most of the time. You don't know the editor. In order to better explain yourself, your study, it's a chance for you to help the editor better understand you, your perspective in your own words, not in technical language. So we should explain our study in our own words here by referring to the aims and the scope of the journal and also mentioning the scope of the journal. If this is the revised version of our paper, then in the cover letter, we should respond to each reviewer comment here. That is very important. Why we are accepting the changes or reviewer comments or why we are rejecting them. In order to, as I said, clarify ourselves, preparing a cover letter is very important because it's going to be the tool for communication between the editor and the author. And now, We are ready to submit. And once you submit your paper, now we should be patient and wait for the result. There may be 4 different responses to your submission, for your submission. The first one can be rejection. The editor may reject our paper, and there are some reasons for rejection. It may be the wrong journal. Maybe you should go back to the first stage and think about your journal shortlist once again. It may not be a proper journal article. I mean, your paper may not be a proper journal article in terms of formatting or style guidelines. It may be too long. You may exceed the word limit, or it may be too short. Your academic writing may be problematic throughout the paper. The language proficiency, again, throughout your paper may be poor. So you may need to get your paper proofread by another, maybe, I don't know, native speaker or a professor. And also your study may not be scientifically sound, right? Yeah, that can also be another reason. Of course, there are some other reasons for rejection. Maybe your study really does not make any new contribution to that field. There may be too many similar articles on that topic, so the editor may not prefer your study. The theoretical framework may not be explained enough, may not be satisfactory enough, or there may be some unethical issues, or too much technical language use also may cause you to be rejected. And as I told you before, it may be too local. Your study, your findings, and your implications may remain too local or country specific. And in that case, the editor will probably reject your paper. The second response type that you may get after your submission can be article transfer option. In some journals, we have this. Your paper may not be suitable for that journal. Then the publisher advises you to submit your study, to submit your paper to a different journal. And in that case, we advise the authors to do this. It can be something beneficial for the authors, I believe. So if you get this answer, I think you should think about it very carefully and try submitting your paper to another journal, because you have already received comments from different reviewers. So that's a very huge gain, I think. The third response type can be revise and resubmit through major or minor revisions. If the editor's decision is to revise and resubmit, keep calm and continue revising your paper. Don't give up. And this part is very important because the editor gives you a second chance. So I think you can give it a try, right? And of course, the fourth option will be acceptance. And what can I say here? Congratulations. Your paper is accepted, you're there. So the publication process still is not over. Now we will continue with the post-publication part. After your study, your paper is accepted, of course, you will go through some publishing policy procedures by the publisher. But uh, for your own for your own side, I can say that you should promote your research in different steps, ways. First, you may announce your study on social media, but don't just post your title or, hey, I'm accepted. See my study here. Don't prefer such a style. Try to inform the readers, broader audience, about the value, about the importance of your study by using a daily language in order to better communicate your message in the paper. You may tag significant others. You may have co-authors, publisher, and your institution. You may use hashtags, maybe your keywords. One way which I very like, I think, can be to video record yourself and explain your study in your own words. And then by using this multimedia tool, you will reach out to maybe a broader audience, who knows? You may create your researcher profile if you haven't, but many of us have this on Google Scholar, ResearchGate, etc. You may share your e-prints because the journal usually allows 50 e-prints links for the authors, and they are free to share those e-print links to their colleagues, with their colleagues. I saw this technique in some British researchers' emails. You may give a link to your research in your email signature. Some of them give a link to their research list, but some do it just for their most recent study. That's also an option for promoting your research. Now, I may get your questions and I will try to answer them.
Thank you very much, Nazlı Hocam. It was really wonderful. I kept taking lots of notes here. I hope I will get published soon. Right. Defne Hocam says, what is self-plagiarism? Can you give some examples?
Yeah, for example, if you don't cite your previous work, it can be self-plagiarism.
So it's like, for example, I have written an article, and the next time I write an article and I use the same ideas, I need to quote myself.
Yes.
Cite that previous article. Otherwise, it will be stealing from myself.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
It's unacceptable, yeah.
In articles, definitely. I totally agree with you. That is not ethical. Yeah, okay. Sometimes, Sedat Hocam, what looks weird? I'm sorry, I missed your point. Would you like to unmute yourself and say that yourself?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Hocam.
Citing our previous work, sometimes it looks weird because I wrote, Akayoğlu said this, and it is me, and it looks somehow weird, but it's a must.
Yeah. Erdem Hoca had a wonderful presentation on this topic. If you're interested, please visit our YouTube channel and watch it. And he definitely explained why self-plagiarism is a kind of plagiarism, and it's not allowed in our academic world. Azra Hocam says, may we have the slides? Azra
yes, please.
Hocam,
yes,
maybe,
of course, I can share.
Maybe, Nazlı Hocam, is it okay if you put down your email address in the chat box? And if people are interested, they can contact you. We are going to share the video anyways next week. But if you do need the slides, don't forget to use them ethically. Okay. So yeah, once we publish, we no longer own that. Armando Jam, yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
That's a wonderful point. My Dojam says sometimes our colleagues are too busy to proofread our work. There are a number of proofreading websites or web tools, as you know. Do you recommend using one of them? Do you have a favorite one?
Yeah. I think Grammarly is a good choice for this. Of course, there are many others, which I can't remember exactly right now, but I can write them, prepare my own list for this purpose, and share it with my doja.
Okay. I have a question, if it's okay with you.
Sure, hocam.
Well, we kind of have written about this in the chat box, but most probably you missed them because you were busy presenting. You kept saying throughout your presentation that we should avoid too much technical language. We should not use too much technical language.
Yeah.
And it kind of got a bit confusing for me. We are writing an academic study. So the readers are going to be from our field as well. So why do we need to avoid jargon, professional jargon? Is technical language professional jargon? Do you mean that?
Of course, there will be some technical language which we should use because we are writing an academic paper, but the publishers are concerned about reaching out to broader audience. So our paper should be well understood by many others at an international level, and that's why they usually are hesitant about this.
Okay. Well, it's still not very clear in my mind because I don't personally read, for example, articles in physics because it's not my field. I may read blogs or I may read general information, but I don't read articles. So, well, maybe that's why I don't get published internationally.
And also too much technical language will also prevent even our own audience to maybe follow us or to understand our point clearly. So, yeah.
Okay. Anıl Hocam says could be the statistical jargon. Armando Hocam said something in the chat box. I fell in love with that statement. Where is it? Armando Hocam, do you remember that? Could you please share it with us?
I think it was about, rather than avoiding jargon as such, avoiding variety in jargon, to aim for unity of expression, because what we learn when we learn how to write in English classes, we learn how to use different synonyms, don't we? You know, don't keep using nice, but use variety of words. However, when we come to scientific writing, unity of expression is really important. Where if you're going to, for your particular article, if you're going to call it self-regulation, call it self-regulation, rather than calling it, rather than searching for a synonym, because sometimes writers can do that. So unity of expression. So this is the word, and you just keep using that throughout.
Yeah, being consistent with the words, keywords is very important there.
That's sorry about that. It just reminds me, in recent times, because of COVID, we've had things like distance education, online education, emergency education, and they're all actually really quite different things. But sometimes people have been trying to use them synonymously.
Interchangeably.
Yes,
Yeah, interchangeably. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Excellent point. Well, Armando Hocam always has great ideas. Okay. I have another question for you. This is more like an opinion question, though. Recently, some shady journals ask for a fee or a small donation to publish your work. What do you think of those? Is it ethical, really, to just because we need some more academic work to have to pay someone to publish our work?
I see your question, Hocam. Well, I don't want to discuss about.
This is your personal opinion.
Yeah,
Of course, we are not going to discuss
my
this.
idea, I mean, my preference is always not to get published in journals which require publication charge, which charge publication fee, right?
Yeah.
So I don't prefer them.
Mhm.
They may have their own reasons. I don't know.
Mhm. Okay, Sedat Hocam calls them predatory ones.
Yeah. In our group, I also follow Sedat Hocam's posts, and I see his ideas about it.
Yes, and he also has added here, fortunately, they are not accepted for academic degrees. I'm so glad to hear that. If that's true, it's a relief for me, really. Pelin Hocam says, when you read some articles in Turkish, you may realize they are taken from other foreign resources. I mean, they are translated into Turkish and published by different authors.
Yeah.
Is there a way to detect it? Do you know? Is there a way to detect those?
I don't know any tool to detect it.
Well, Pelin Hocam, good news for you. Learn Chinese quickly and translate some articles. Well, of course, I mean, if someone is going to do something unethical, there's no way of stopping that person. We live in the living examples nowadays. So editors need to detect them, right?
Yeah, of course. It's editors.
Defne Hocam says so,
responsibility.
But yeah, some editors are not editors. Well, that's another point. Okay. What kind of a moderator am I? I have all the questions here. Now, another question I have here. You said that if the research that we have carried out contains a local problem, our work may get rejected because it's not generalizable, because it doesn't have international perspective. Now, it is very hard to carry out a research on international platforms. So is there a tip that you can offer us to make a local work more generalizable?
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, I mean, the problem, of course, the study will be carried out in our own local context. That's quite normal. But the important part is to relate our study, our trial to fill in that gap in the literature to the international field. That's what I mean. We may have a problem in Turkey, a specific problem. We may have that problem in different countries as well. So that is important to be parallel, right, here, and include as many previous studies as we can that were carried out in different parts of the world. And that's how we can relate our problem to the international area.
Yeah, Amanda Hocam, you have something to add?
Yes, something related to this. That's what, just to add on to what Nazlı Hoca said there, which is completely true, is that if you can position Turkey within the rest of the world, for example, Turkey is an OECD country.
Mm-hmm.
And what we can do is like, for example, teacher quality is a concern in OECD countries, and Turkey is an OECD country. So I think that's one way we can do it as well. You know, Turkey, okay, we've got a very local context here, but we've got a global connection there. You know, we're not completely separated or isolated. So I think that's what we need to do there a little bit, sort of connect where we are within that international context, and referring to the OECD things or PISA scores or that kind of thing can be quite useful. Because a framing.
Yeah,
Just like to
excellent point. Yeah. Okay, sometimes some journals call for specific local studies. Defne Hocam says that. Okay. And Sedat Hocam, similar studies were carried out in the States, Italy, France, and some Asian countries. We would like to study the same topic in our context. Okay. Ali Hocam, what are the outcomes in practice? A difficult question, Nazlı Hocam. What are the outcomes in practice of plagiarism for an academician, Hocam? I mean, from least to the most serious one. For example, downgrading their academic titles, or maybe being ordered by a relevant court to pay indemnification. Ali Hocam, are you being satirical here?
No, Hocam, I'm really wondering.
Is this a real question?
It's a real question, believe me, because we live in such a country that plagiarism claims can sometimes be without any legal sanction. And I do wonder what happens.
Nothing.
Well, at least in my writing classes, I don't accept, I don't tolerate plagiarism. I think that's enough for me.
Well, we have seen some examples in our society, Ali Hocam, unfortunately, and we know that there are no legal.
Hocam, you know, because it's, I don't know the correct terminology term for that. It's a theft of effort.
Yeah.
Emek hırsızlığı, if I'm correct. But if someone is stealing your work and there is no penalty for that, it's so sad and it's a shame, I think. It's my humble opinion.
I totally agree with you. And I don't think that I have anyone in this group who's going to disagree with you. We all agree with you. But unfortunately, fill in the blanks.
Well, in my writing class again, I use writing for publication project. I want to mention it a little bit. Well, each month, our writing class students, freshmen, write a new essay, depending on the topic and the type of the essay. And at the end of the month, after I review all of them, I select the best paper or best papers, sometimes because there may be more than one. And I contact those students, ask for their permission, and finally, I get them published in Inget newsletter. In this way, they feel motivated, and it is the very first step for them to start writing for publication. Yeah.
So, Pelin Hocam, as you can see, there are teachers. There are teachers. As we say in
Kendime
Turkish.
söylememiştim bu arada.
Some professors at the university do their best to help their students become good people, good academics, good teachers. Some don't care. But this is very human, isn't it? So let's have a positive viewpoint about this. Let's forget about those bad examples. Okay, there are just a few. Okay. 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 Well, I believe we have discussed this, and yeah, I can see your point, Pelin Hocam. By the way, I have this intention of calling everyone Hocam, because whoever joins these sessions are either teachers, instructors, professors, or prospective teachers. So that's okay. Even if you're a student, you're a hoca for me, in a good sense, not a bad sense. Don't be pessimistic, Pelin Hocam. Just don't forget about these bad examples when you become a teacher, okay? Because we can always learn from good people and bad people. And I believe you have learned a very good lesson from that instructor. Are there any other questions or comments? Or can I close the session? Okay.
So I also, Hocam, want to share this visual with the audience. Yeah, this is how we start and how we end. I like this.
It is excellent. It is by the way, Nazlı Hocam, Sedat Hoca has just threw a question on us. Do you believe that some editors or reviewers have prejudices about Turkish researchers?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
As long as the study is well qualified, highly qualified, I think the nationality should not be the matter.
Yeah, okay. Sedat Hocam, personally, I do agree with this question, because I do have the same question in my mind. Unfortunately. But this visual is excellent. I mean, it's wonderful. Of course, there are lots of thank yous in the chat box, lots of good comments. Nazlı Hocam, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be with you and listen to you. And we learned a lot, and we have talked on several different topics, thanks to you.
Thank you very much, Hocam.
Hopefully, we will have another session with you in the future and learn more about this. By the way, among the audience, we have excellent, great professors and associate professors and assistant professors, and they all have works published internationally, besides their national publications, of course. So there is always hope.
Yeah, and I wish all of us all the best for our future publishing endeavors. Yeah. And thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Nazlı Hocam. Thank you very much, my dear colleagues, for being with us, and hope to see you again next week. Take good care of yourselves. Bye-bye.